starting with 1 million luck points. Chapter 211, Big News. The number of spatial rifts in many areas has increased by a lot. Even some areas that did not have spatial rifts before are starting to have them. I'm basically certain that in a month, there will be 13 more extremely troublesome spatial rifts in the entire Huaxia territory. After the square-faced middle-aged man finished speaking, he looked at everyone. 13? So many. The other experts couldn't help but reveal shocked expressions. The current situation in Huaxia was very serious. Be it inside or outside the spatial rift, there was insufficient manpower. If there were 13 more spatial rifts, the defensive pressure would undoubtedly be unprecedented. Have any foreign races appeared in these spatial rifts? An expert quickly asked for the key information. After all, some of the spatial rifts that appeared earlier did not have any foreign races. Naturally, there was no need for such a spatial rift to be heavily guarded. Yes. Now we can almost be sure that there are foreign races living in all 13 of these rifts. Then, as the spatial rift gradually takes shape, the foreign races will definitely appear. Upon hearing this, the meeting room fell silent for a moment as an intense pressure surged towards them. They had long known that they did not have much time left. Therefore, he had been making all kinds of preparations. It was just that they did not expect the changes to happen so quickly. The younger generation martial artists did not have enough time to grow at all. This made them feel somewhat helpless. The most important thing now is to do 3 things quickly. First of all, we have to nurture the elites of the various elite training camps as soon as possible. They are all the future pillars of humanity. Secondly, we need to mobilize all the martial artists in Huaxia and all the available resources to defend the 13 spatial rifts. Finally, the martial artists in the depths of the spatial rift will also need to increase the speed of their hunting of the foreign races and reduce the external pressure. The square-faced middle-aged man broke the silence and said his opinion. The other experts regained their senses and nodded forcefully. Zhou Hao did not know about the meeting of the Green Cloud Division. Now, he was still in the training area, waiting for the upgrade of the Heaven Dao software to be completed. After all, there might be new opportunities inside. Although Zhou Hao did not know what the upgraded Heaven Dao software would be like, he did not have to worry at all. After all, he now had more than 100 million luck points. The upgrade of the Heaven Dao software was probably nothing major. As long as the Mystery Box Lucky Draw function and the Live Stream function were still available, Zhou Hao could use his luck points to continue accumulating more and more. The night passed uneventfully. At noon the next day, Zhou Hao opened the Heaven Dao software punctually. At the same time, the other users logged in. However, to everyone's disappointment, the new opportunity that everyone had imagined did not appear. In other words, it was basically the same as before. On the chat channel of the Heaven Dao software, many users continued to complain. What kind of upgrade is this? Nothing has changed. It can't be said that nothing has changed. Look, the interface is now divided into 4 panels. There should be something on the 3rd panel. Isn't the 3rd panel blank? While everyone was busy complaining, Zhou Hao was carefully checking the upgraded Heaven Dao software. The front page of the Heaven Dao software now had 4 transparent panels. In the upper left corner was the mystery box, and in the upper right corner was the live broadcast. In the lower left corner was the 3rd panel that others had mentioned. However, this panel was somewhat special. On the public chat, many people said that the 3rd panel was blank. However, Zhou Hao's 3rd panel displayed the word Shop, unactivated. It was obvious that opening this panel in the Heaven Dao software required certain requirements. The 4th panel was the backpack. The entire interface was as simple as usual. At this moment, Zhou Hao's message icon suddenly flashed. Opening it, he saw that it was a message from Fairy Yuling. Big shot, can you see what the 3rd panel is? It's said that some people can see it. I'm clearly not one of these lucky people. With you. After gradually getting familiar with Zhou Hao, Fairy Yu Ling also became a little playful. You can't see it too. Zhou Hao was rather surprised. Originally, he thought that the qualifications to see the third panel should be related to financial resources. For example, all the users complaining right now were actually low-level users. However, now that even Fairy Yu Ling was unable to see it, that meant that the appearance and activation of the shop function might not have anything to do with financial resources. Big news! Big news! As Zhou Hao and Fairy Yu Ling were chatting, a diamond-level user suddenly said excitedly on the public chat. Big shot, what's the big shot news? Chapter 212, Legendary Item Fragment. Diamond-level users always did well no matter where they went. Moreover, this person even had big news to share. Zhou Hao's interest was immediately piqued. He also wanted to see what the big news was. The third panel's function is a shop. After recently obtaining 5 rare level items from the mystery box, the shop icon appeared. According to my test just now and after asking many friends, I came to a conclusion. That is, after accumulating 100 rare level items in half a year, one should be able to activate the shop function. Immediately, the chat channel exploded. Damn! What a scam! How is it possible to get 100 rare level items in half a year? Are you kidding me? If others can't, this person might be able to add I'm just an ordinary person. Damn! Add I'm just an ordinary person. Please guide me, big shot. Add I'm just an ordinary person. Big shot, announce the secret manuscript and let the world benefit. Big shot, show yourself and say something. Add I'm just an ordinary person. On the public chat, everyone kept tagging Zhou Hao crazily. They also wanted to become as lucky as Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao's heart skipped a beat. If he could really activate the shop by obtaining 100 rare level items in the near future, then he might really be the first person to activate the shop function. In order not to disappoint those tagging him, Zhou Hao also began to open the mystery box. Currently, after the upgrade of the Heaven Dao software, it could be said that nothing had changed. Everything was the same as before. In the beginning, Zhou Hao did not spend any luck points. In the end, the system gave him a lot of roses. Now, Zhou Hao had a lot of money on hand. Last time, he had obtained more than 300 colored energy crystals from killing the Heaven Crystal Purple Scorpion King and the illusionary sound insects. During this period of time, he had accumulated more than 500 colored energy crystals. In the past, he might have been happy for a long time. However, now that he knew about the Heaven Realm, 500 colored energy crystals was really nothing. After all, 100 energy crystals could only be exchanged for 1 essence crystal. With his wealth, he opened some gold mystery boxes and platinum mystery boxes to see if there were any changes to them without using his luck points. Then, he completely proved that the results of the one-day upgrade of the Heaven Dao software were basically the same for all the users. After all, no user could activate the upgraded shop function at the moment. This was undoubtedly very annoying. After all, the appearance of the shop function made it seem as if it was within grasp. After opening a batch of mystery boxes, Zhou Hao got a lot of roses, stinky tofu, and tea eggs. He had a deep feeling that the software wanted him to open a provision store. Immediately, he did not stand on ceremony. With a wave of his hand, he directly spent 100 million luck points to let the Heaven Dao software know the fear of being dominated by Lady Luck. 100 million luck points was not easy to accumulate. According to past experience, the effect would definitely be very explosive. With the thought, his 100 million luck points was instantly depleted. At the same time, Zhou Hao also began to open the mystery box mercilessly like a storm. Ding! Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining a high-level item Green Water Sword. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Ding! Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining a high-level item Triple Lines. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Ding! Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining a high-level item Spring Rain Sword Technique. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Ding! Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining a rare level item Divine Willow Seed. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Ding! Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining a rare level item Wordless Heaven Book. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Ding! Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining a legendary item Demon Subduing Bow Fragment X1, 1/100. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Many users were still discussing Johao when the public notifications suddenly appeared. This time, Johao had gotten at least 80 high-level items. A total of 7 rare-level items appeared at once. Instantly, the entire crowd exploded. Ah! Big shot, what did you do? This is too crazy. And I'm just an ordinary person. Roar! And I'm just an ordinary person. I will reward you handsomely if you teach me how you do it. And I'm just an ordinary person. Is the big shot in need of any lackeys? I'm so envious. The world is so cruel. He got 7 rare level items at once. How many mystery boxes did you open? And I'm just an ordinary person. Although the drop rate of high level items was not high, most users could still get them from time to time. However, rare level items were different. The drop rate of a rare level item was very low. Most old users who had opened a lot of boxes had never seen a single rare level item. Big shot, what's with that legendary item? Chapter 213, The Eighth Great Wonder of the World. The ordinary users stared at the 100+ high-level items. After all, this was the first time they had seen many high-level items. Many high-level users stared at the 7 rare-level items. To get 7 rare-level items at once was simply the 8th great wonder of the world. A few top users were looking at the legendary item Fragment. This was the first time in the history of the Heaven Dao software that a legendary level item had appeared. Although it was only a fragment, it was still very terrifying. And I'm just an ordinary person. Big shot, why don't you reply? How did you do it? Also, what kind of high-end item is a legendary item Fragment? Many users were still in a daze. In fact, Johao was also somewhat dumbfounded. In all this time, this was the first time he had obtained a legendary level item. The most ridiculous thing was that it was only a fragment. This fragment was not simple. It required a total of 100 pieces to synthesize this item called the Demon Subduing Bow. However, Johao had also verified one thing: the diamond user was probably right. After obtaining another 7 rare level items, the shop icon on his third section became much clearer. Based on this logic, he would get around 100 to 120 rare level items to activate the shop function. After spending all 100 million luck points this time, his gains were undoubtedly huge. His backpack was now filled with high-level items. However, he was no longer interested in these high-level items. Some of them could even be given to others. What really interested him were the 7 rare level items and a legendary level item. Demon Subduing Bow Fragment X1, 1/100, a peak-grade essence energy weapon. After collecting 100 fragments, it could be synthesized. Currently, the Demon Subduing Bow was still in a fragmented state and Johao could only see very little information. However, Johao was still very surprised and shocked. He did not expect this Demon Subduing Bow to be a peak-grade essence energy weapon. Essence energy weapons were currently the privilege of Heaven Realm experts. Ordinary martial artists simply did not have the qualifications or financial resources to obtain an essence energy weapon. Essence energy weapons were divided into low level, intermediate level, high level, and peak level. After synthesizing the Demon Subduing Bow Fragment, Zhou Hao would obtain a peak-level essence energy weapon. However, although the demon subduing bow was good, accumulating fragments was bound to be an incomparably long process. If he wanted to get the demon subduing bow fragment, he would need to spend at least 100 million luck points. In order to obtain luck points, he had to kill foreign races. But were there really so many foreign races for him to kill? What Zhou Hao did not know was that the spatial rifts all over the world were currently undergoing subtle changes. Not long after, 13 more spatial rifts would appear in Huaxia. Now, the higher UPS of the other Green Cloud Division were still having a headache over this matter. However, Zhou Hao was worried that the foreign races would not be enough to kill. This was simply too much. After checking the demon subduing bow fragment, Zhou Hao looked at the Wordless Heaven book. This Wordless Heaven book was what he needed now. This was because the Wordless Heaven book could advance his Grand Yan record by 1 level. There was nothing to say. He could just use it directly. After imprinting all the contents of the Grand Yan record onto the Wordless Heaven book, his Grand Yan record also became a higher level 5 elements Grand Yan record. Worth it. Looking at the filled backpack, Zhou Hao smiled. In certain times, it could be said that he was content with what he had. However, Zhou Hao's gains this time had far exceeded his expectations. He had obtained a huge harvest. The more luck points he accumulated, the more heaven-defying the effect was. Because it was too high profile this time, even after a long time, the chat was still filled with Zhou Hao's legendary deeds. Many gold and platinum users were tagging him crazily. Even many high-level diamond users were crying from greed. Generally speaking, most diamond users were big spenders. However, this was the first time Zhou Hao had gotten 7 rare level items and 1 legendary level item. And I'm just an ordinary person. Big brother, how many mystery boxes did you open? A diamond user with the ID Young Master Nephew asked curiously on the public chat. 7 rare level items and 1 legendary level item at a time. Even if you opened the maximum number of boxes, you still won't be able to get so many at a time, right? There must be something going on behind the scenes. There must be something going on. Ah! I'm jealous, I'm completely jealous. Not to mention 7 rare level items, even if it was 1 rare level item, I would still be overjoyed. And I'm just an ordinary person. Big shot, quickly tell me what's going on with the legendary item. Please show everyone. What everyone was most interested in now was indeed the legendary item Zhou Hao had obtained. Although the probability of obtaining a rare level item was low, one could still occasionally see other users getting it. However, no one had ever seen anything like this. Other users opened mystery boxes to test their luck. However, Zhou Hao would always obtain something whenever he opened them. Chapter 214, Be Careful. Zhou Hao had no intention of answering these users' questions, and he also did not go to Fairy Yu Ling's live stream. At the same time, his luck points and funds had basically been depleted. Now, he still had to work hard to kill the foreign races to earn luck points and money. On the one hand, he was able to draw out the legendary item this time. On the other hand, he had spent a lot. He directly used a bankruptcy method to obtain the legendary item. If it was already so difficult for him, it was no wonder the other users couldn't get any legendary items. After closing the virtual screen, Zhou Hao's mind returned to reality. The Heaven Realm cultivation technique he originally cultivated, the Grand Yan record, had already surpassed the 3 ordinary cultivation techniques. Now that he had improved the Grand Yan record to the 5 elements Grand Yan record, he could not wait to start cultivating. After circulating his cultivation technique, Zhou Hao's face immediately revealed ecstasy. This 5 elements Grand Yan record was indeed worthy of being a cultivation technique that consumed rare level items to advance. Its effect was directly 10 times that of the original Grand Yan record. According to the information Si Nangxun had left in his cultivation notebook, the level of the 5 elements Grand Yan record was definitely impressive. Humph! As he was overjoyed, Zhou Hao also snorted coldly, his aura trembling. A black panther that was pouncing towards him was directly killed by his aura. Fortunately, no one saw this, or they would have definitely cried from fear. This black panther, which was comparable to a third-grade supernatural martial artist, was directly killed by Zhou Hao's aura before it could even approach 3 meters. It was simply too terrifying. After killing the black panther, Zhou Hao casually took care of its materials. Clearing the demon beast materials now could only be said to be a habit. In terms of value, with his current strength, it did not matter whether he collected these demon beasts or not. After everything was settled, Zhou Hao also began to check on the training situation of Su Ling and the others. His senses were very powerful. Although this training area was not small, he still quickly discovered Su Ling. At this moment, Su Ling and Yunyan had already successfully met up. Although the two of them were in a somewhat sorry state, they were not injured. Yunyan's dressing style was cool and bold to begin with, and it was no exception even in this trial. Now that there were some cuts in her clothing, one could see a large area of snow-white skin at a glance. It was very pleasing to the eye. Su Ling, do you feel that something is watching us? A strange expression appeared on Yunyan's beautiful face. From the beginning, she had felt as if someone was staring at them. Su Ling looked around in surprise. She didn't see the demon race, insect race, machine race, or other foreign races. There should be nothing staring at them. I didn't discover anything around us either, but I keep feeling like there's a gaze observing us. Yunyan puffed her cheeks. She was actually very familiar with this feeling. It was just like how when she went shopping with Su Ling and the others, there were always people staring at her from the streets. This was not because she was narcissistic. Perhaps it was because of her mental strength, or perhaps it was because of her so-called sixth sense. She indeed had this feeling. Why don't you change your clothes? Su Ling hesitated for a moment and realized that Yunyan's current appearance was really too pleasing to the eye. This girl's figure was originally very voluptuous, and now, it was even filled with wild charm. Even a girl like Su Ling blushed when she saw this. Oh, you're right. Yunyan nodded and immediately found a place to change. Far away from the two of them, Zhou Hao revealed a bitter smile. Indeed, a beautiful scene could easily disappear. However, he still wanted to ask if Yunyan often used her blood essence power to reconstruct her body. Her figure was too perfect. If Su Ling was said to be a white lotus under the moonlight, then Yunyan was simply a rose in the wind. Be careful! As Zhou Hao was sighing with emotion, a shout sounded from afar. It was Liu Zhan, the dark horse who had suddenly risen up in the previous end-of-the-month competition. Liu Zhan revealed a frightened expression at this moment and sighed in his heart. It was unknown what this Zhou Hao was thinking. A green-eyed black wolf had already arrived in front of him, but he still hadn't reacted. Actually, Zhou Hao had long discovered this green-eyed black wolf. However, he had clearly underestimated the stupidity of the green-eyed black wolf. The bloody aura of the Black Panther on his body had yet to completely disappear, yet this green-eyed black wolf still dared to attack him. The green-eyed black wolf was extremely fast, and its strength had almost reached peak master level. Liu Zhan was extremely worried. In the 7th elite training camp, such a demon beast probably required the cooperation of the top 5 students to deal with. But now, he was alone with Zhou Hao. They were clearly not their match. Chapter 215, Nothing is hard as long as you are willing to work hard. Bang! This time, Zhou Hao did not use his essence energy and directly killed the green-eyed black wolf. Instead, he used his usual strength as a master to fight the green-eyed black wolf. Be it the demon race, the insect race, or the machine race, they all had top-notch experts. With President Zhou's identity, he could attack at any time. However, as student Zhou Hao needed to keep a low profile. As long as these foreign races did not know who President Zhou was, he would always be safe. No matter what he did, he would not be specially targeted by the foreign races and would be able to act freely. Bang! Zhou Hao punched out and directly caused an explosion in the air. Under the cover of the armor, the might of his punch was even stronger and terrifying. After all, Zhou Hao's might could actually evenly match the green-eyed black wolf. How powerful! Liu Zhan's charging figure stopped. After entering the 7th elite training camp, he had been cultivating diligently from morning to night, so he improved very quickly. This was a true awakening process. When this process ended, Liu Zhan would see a completely different world. Therefore, after Zhou Hao exchanged blows with the green-eyed black wolf, he immediately understood that Zhou Hao's strength was far stronger than he had imagined. Bang! 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 After repelling the green-eyed black wolf with a punch, Zhou Hao pounced forward again. Then, a pair of iron fists directly caused an explosion with a storm-like attack. The incomparably terrifying green-eyed black wolf was directly blasted back repeatedly. In the beginning, Liu Zhan was only surprised at Zhou Hao's strength. Now, the surprise in his eyes directly turned to shock. Originally, the other students were at the first level, Yuan Cheng and the other outstanding students were at the second level, and Zhou Hao, Ji Yufan and Su Ling were at the third level. Although there was a gap between them and Zhou Hao, it was at most a level. If they continued to work hard, the gap would continue to shrink. It was definitely only a matter of time before they caught up to Zhou Hao. But now, Liu Zhan realized that he was wrong. He was ridiculously wrong. Zhou Hao was at least already standing on the 5th level. Compared to him, Ji Yufan, Su Ling, and the others, Zhou Hao was at least 2 levels higher and was far ahead. In the 7th elite training camp, he was fully deserving of being the number 1 elite. Ha! On the other side, Zhou Hao roared and suddenly lashed out with his leg. Before Liu Zhan could figure out what was going on, a black figure rushed out. This black figure was extremely fast. It was actually a red-tailed python. Its strength was not inferior to the green-eyed black wolf at all. Because it contained poison, the danger level was even higher than the green-eyed black wolf. Let me help you. As soon as Liu Zhan finished speaking, he realized that he had spoken nonsense. This was because even in a 1-on-2 situation, Zhou Hao still managed to firmly gain the upper hand and even began to continuously suppress the green-eyed black wolf and the red-tailed python. Liu Zhan was once again surprised and shocked. In the violent wind, Liu Zhan was completely dumbfounded as he looked at the scene in front of him in bewilderment. He seemed to have become completely petrified. He had already overestimated Zhou Hao's strength and even confirmed that Zhou Hao was at least 2 levels stronger than all of them. But now, he suddenly realized that he had still underestimated Zhou Hao. Both the green-eyed black wolf and the red-tailed python could easily kill him. But now, Zhou Hao was actually not at a disadvantage even though he was fighting the 2 of them alone. It could be seen how powerful Zhou Hao was. Liu Zhan was naturally unaware that he was still underestimating Zhou Hao. After all, Zhou Hao was not at the 5th level but had instead surpassed all the levels. Swoosh! The shadow of a condensed silver crescent axe flashed as Zhou Hao slashed the red-tailed python into 2. Then, he swung his axe down and directly turned the huge python head into meat paste. This axe was an intermediate level item obtained from opening the mystery box. It was not that impressive, but it was more than enough to deal with these demon beasts. Its material and toughness had already far surpassed most Grandmaster's weapons. In Liu Zhan's eyes, this was simply a divine weapon. The red-tailed python's body was incomparably tough. If not for the core area of the weapon's explosive power hitting the red-tailed python, it would not have been able to blast it into meat paste. However, Zhou Hao had done this with ease. At this moment, a monstrous fighting spirit ignited in Liu Zhan's heart. Zhou Hao had become his only goal and direction. After this, he would work even harder and cultivate even more crazily. He had to surpass Zhou Hao. Although Zhou Hao was very powerful, Liu Zhan was confident in himself. There was nothing difficult in this world as long as one was willing to work hard. Zhou Hao naturally did not know what Liu Zhan was thinking at this moment. Otherwise, he might subconsciously reveal a strange expression. It was naturally a good thing to have a goal. However, many goals needed to be set realistically based on the actual situation and could not be set blindly. While Zhou Hao was fighting the green-eyed black wolf and the red-tailed python, Yang Hui and the other four figures appeared on a cliff. Chapter 216, Am I that kind of person? The few of them looked at Zhou Hao's battle below and were incomparably excited. Be it Zhou Hao's combat experience, usage of blood essence, or movement techniques, they are all remarkable and almost perfect. The usually picky Yang Hui also gave a very high evaluation this time. Genius. A peerless genius. A white-bearded elder beside Yang Hui said firmly. He had lived for most of his life and had seen many genius martial artists, but this was the first time he had seen such a perfect genius who was good at all aspects. Other than the fact that Zhou Hao had only cultivated for a short period of time and that his strength was not very high, Zhou Hao was simply a living example of a perfect martial artist. It seems that our 7th elite training camp is going to rise again. A female martial artist dressed in formal attire bit her red lip and looked at Zhou Hao with bright eyes. That's hard to say. There are many geniuses in the other 6 elite training camps, and they spend even more time training. At the very least, Zhou Hao is definitely lacking in terms of cultivation time. And time is very difficult to make up for among geniuses. The other instructor was not as optimistic as Yang Hui and the others. However, although this instructor had disappointed everyone, he still continued to speak. Of course, every elite training camp has its own specialties. In terms of nurturing geniuses, our 7th elite training camp also has its own specialties. Compared to the other elite training camps, we still have a huge advantage. That is, we are close to the 7th spatial rift. In combat, strength increases the fastest. We should keep bringing these little guys over to train in the future. As soon as this middle-aged man in a black training suit finished speaking, a gasp sounded. Yang Hui and the others were all looking down in shock. In less than 10 minutes, the 2 master-level demon beasts were killed by Zhou Hao's axe. Impressive. Among students of the same age, there are definitely no more than 20 people who can do this. Yang Hui praised without holding back. At the same time, his heart stirred as he looked at the black-clothed instructor. Iron Lion, why don't you go and capture a few master-level demon beasts to let Zhou Hao practice? Of course, Iron Lion was only this instructor's nickname. However, he did not mind this nickname. You sure know how to order people around. If you want it done, do it yourself. Yang Hui's request was directly rejected mercilessly by Tai Liuyun. In the forest, everything returned to calm. After Zhou Hao sorted out the materials of the 2 demon beasts, Liu Zhan had yet to recover from his shock. Although he had vowed to surpass Zhou Hao, this unlucky child was still quite shocked. You're very strong. But I will definitely surpass you. After saying this, Liu Zhan chose to leave to continue training. It couldn't be helped. With Zhou Hao by his side, he had no chance to attack at all, so he naturally wouldn't be able to improve. Zhou Hao smiled. This guy was too interesting. Zhou Hao also completely respected Liu Zhan's decision to leave. After all, one shouldn't just tag along with an expert. In less than 10 minutes, the news that Zhou Hao, a student from the 7th elite training camp, had killed 2 master-level demon beasts spread throughout the entire front-line defense line. When they heard this news, all the martial artists felt that it was unbelievable. In the eyes of most martial artists, the students of the elite training camp were all delicate children who never experienced hardship. They really did not expect a student to be able to do this. Especially since Yang Hui and the others had seen it with their own eyes. They had no other choice but to believe it. As the entire front-line defense line was discussing and praising Zhou Hao had already met up with Su Ling and Yun Yan. After training for so many days, Su Ling and Yun Yan's pretty faces were filled with fatigue. Seeing Zhou Hao's glowing face and full expression, the two of them revealed strange expressions. "Where did you go to hide?" Yun Yan asked uncertainly. After all, they were both in the weakened state, but Zhou Hao was full of energy and in a saturated state. It seemed like he did not encounter any danger or battle. "Do you think I'm that kind of person?" Zhou Hao was speechless. Couldn't this Yun Yan have a better impression of him? Unexpectedly, at this moment, Su Ling also nodded seriously and said, "Zhou Hao, did you go somewhere to hide?" Pu. Hearing Su Ling say this, Zhou Hao was about to vomit blood. "Can't you two just accept the fact that I traveled around without being injured at all?" Zhou Hao looked at the two of them speechlessly. These two girls clearly did not trust his strength. Chapter 217, Simply Outrageous. Keep bragging. How could we not know how dangerous this place is? Although Zhou Hao had also revealed his strength once before, no one had seen him in a fight. Under such circumstances, many people even suspected that Zhou Hao had used some trick. Yun Yan believed that Zhou Hao definitely had the strength, but she felt that he was on the same level as Su Ling and Ji Yufan. She thought that he might even be inferior to Su Ling and Ji Yufan. In this training ground, even Su Ling and Ji Yufan could not travel freely without getting injured, let alone Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao shook his head helplessly and did not argue with Yun Yan. He was even thinking about how Yun Yan would react if she saw him kill a peak-level supernatural demon beast with a single punch. All right, stop fooling around. Since we've gathered, let's continue training. With the three of us working together, our safety has increased greatly. We can now go and take a look at some areas that were previously very dangerous." Su Ling took out food and water for the two of them as she spoke. "That's too bland. Let's eat something good." Zhou Hao looked at the mineral water and the special compressed biscuits Su Ling handed him and casually ridiculed. Then, under Su Ling and Yun Yan's dumbfounded gazes, his figure directly flashed and left the team without permission. "Hey, where are you going?" Su Ling looked at Zhou Hao's disappearing figure, feeling both angry and anxious. It had to be known that this place was filled with danger. It was one thing for Zhou Hao to be so crazy normally, but for him to act like this even in such a situation, she really wanted to smash his head. What Su Ling and Yun Yan did not know was that Zhou Hao had returned because he had seen a mountain boar on the way here. The mountain boar had huge and delicious meat. After heaven and earth mutated, the mountain boar also mutated. The other animals and plants had become more aggressive. However, interestingly enough, this mountain boar actually became more delicious after mutating. The meat was delicious and chewy. Regardless of whether it was roasted, stir-fried, or fried, it was still top-notch delicious. Not only was it delicious, but its flesh also contained sufficient blood essence. Eating wild boar meat could also speed up one's cultivation. If it were anyone else, Su Ling and Yun Yan probably wouldn't care. However, because it was Zhou Hao now, the two of them couldn't care less about the danger and could only quickly follow. The strange thing was that Zhou Hao should have been one step ahead of them. However, he seemed to have disappeared after the two girls started chasing after him. What the two of them did not know was that after leaving their line of sight, Zhou Hao almost directly teleported. After killing the mountain boar with a single slash, his figure flashed and appeared halfway. He was waiting for Su Ling and Yun Yan to come and find him. Half an hour later, Su Ling and Zhou Hao finally arrived as they moved cautiously. "Zhou Hao, are you tired of living? Why are you still acting on your own in such a dangerous place? If you do this again, as Su Ling spoke, she was about to attack. "Hey, wait, I'll give you a surprise." In order to save his life, Zhou Hao hurriedly took a step away. After seeing the mountain boar behind Zhou Hao, Su Ling's eyes lit up and her anger disappeared. At the very least, she suppressed the urge to go up and smash his head. However, their lives were at risk in this training. Could he be more serious? However, with such a mountain boar, their food problem was finally resolved. Everyone knew that the meat of the mountain boar was delicious. Many places were specialized in raising mountain boars. Although there were also many mountain boars in the forest, in the wilderness, there were all kinds of foreign races. No matter how gluttonous a martial artist was, not many martial artists would choose to take the initiative to come to the wilderness or hunt mountain boars around the spatial rift. Do you really want to have a barbecue? After arriving at a stream, Su Ling's beautiful eyes revealed hesitation and conflict. Wasn't it a little inappropriate for them to have a barbecue in such a place? It's indeed a little inappropriate. As if he knew what Su Ling was thinking, Zhou Hao also spoke at this moment. Su Ling and Yunyan also looked over, wanting to know what Zhou Hao's decision was. It's still lacking something. If I roast it like this, the taste probably won't be good. When Su Ling and Yunyan thought that Zhou Hao was about to say something important, they did not expect him to say something like this. It was clear what Zhou Hao meant by that. They still lacked the dipping sauce and pickles. This fellow was too particular. Although this was only a training ground, it was undoubtedly a battlefield for students like them. Should one be worried about sauces on the battlefield? It was simply outrageous. I'll go to the salt lake to get some salt ores to extract the salt. The two of you, go over and pick some wild mountain peppers. Zhou Hao had even arranged tasks for Su Ling and Yunyan. At the same time, he also went to look for salt ores. Su Ling and Yunyan were dumbfounded. This guy was getting more and more overboard. Chapter 218, This guy is so cocky. Before Zhou Hao appeared, Su Ling and Yunyan simply did not dare to imagine that they could eat so well in the training area. Su Ling looked at Zhou Hao with a disappointed expression. Can't you be a little more alert? This is a very dangerous training area after all. Su Ling looked at Zhou Hao, who was eating heartily, and said angrily. Ever since they entered the training area, all the students had been tense, afraid that they would lose their lives if they were careless. Some of them were even so frightened that their legs turned weak before they even began. Yet, this fellow didn't know what it meant to be nervous. Seeing his look of enjoyment, those who did not know would think that he was here for an outing. They really did not know if this guy was careless or just had an abnormal way of thinking. I've always been very alert, Zhou Hao said casually as he continued to eat. Hearing this, Su Ling and Yunyan were very speechless. This was because he was completely relaxed. Seeing that the two of them were still standing there in a daze, he hurriedly called out, "You guys should come and eat too. It's too delicious." As he spoke, he cut 2 pieces of meat and handed it to the two of them. Su Ling and Yunyan looked at the meat in their hands that was oozing with oil and fragrance. They looked at each other in tacit understanding and couldn't help but swallow. It seemed as though Zhou Hao's relaxed vibe was contagious. Seeing Zhou Hao's satisfied expression, Su Ling and Yunyan could not help but relax and start eating comfortably. How fragrant! On a cliff, a beautiful figure in a white research suit looked down with narrowed eyes. Looking at the 3 students below who were not vigilant and were still focused on eating, her expression was dark. The woman's name was Su Menjing and she was from the 7th Fortress Base. She was also the Vice Dean of the 7th Elite Training Academy. All along, she had been doing research on martial artist weapons. This time, after hearing that an extremely heaven-defying student had appeared in the academy, she could not hold back her curiosity and personally came to check. In the end, she saw a scene that made her doubt life. She even suspected that the difficulty of this training was too low, which was why they were so indifferent. However, she immediately rejected this idea. As someone who had experienced this before, she had also participated in this kind of training before and knew very well how dangerous it was. Now that she thought about it, although she did not have lingering fear, she still remembered it vividly. Moreover, the global situation was even more serious now, and the spatial rifts were only getting more and more dangerous. As for the description of Zhou Hao by Yang Hui and the others, she basically did not believe it at all. No matter how powerful a junior from the elite training camp was, their strength was still limited. It was absolutely impossible for a junior to be stronger than a veteran who had experienced countless life and death situations. When she heard that Zhou Hao had remained calm when facing the siege of 3 demon beasts of the same level, she almost laughed out loud. Now, based on what she saw, she felt that Zhou Hao was too careless. She had already prepared many gifts for Zhou Hao. What happened next would depend on his performance. Whether they would survive or not will depend on their battle. By the stream, after Zhou Hao had eaten and drunk his fill, his eyes revealed a meaningful smile. Of course, he knew that not far from here, there was a peak-level master-level 100 feet worm chasing their scent. What are you laughing at? Su Ling was almost dumbfounded by Zhou Hao. She felt that she could not understand him anymore. It was one thing for this guy to be lazy in the training area, but now he was even laughing for no reason. He must be planning something bad. Yunyan glanced at Zhou Hao and said seriously. Pfft! Is that what you think of me? Zhou Hao was speechless. He hadn't realized that Yunyan was like this before. Could it be that Yunyan had eaten too much mountain boar meat and had become stupid from eating it? Be careful. I sense a dangerous aura approaching. Su Ling put down the delicacy in her hand, took out her weapon, and observed her surroundings vigilantly. Her senses were usually very accurate. Previously, when she and Yunyan were moving together, she had sensed danger many times and avoided it in time. Something seems wrong. Yunyan also became solemn. Both of their reactions were not slow. Zhou Hao was not surprised at all. If the two of them were not vigilant when a peak-level master-level 100 feet worm rushed over, they would have cultivated in vain. What is that? Looking at the huge insect race being in the distance, Yunyan was stunned. Run, this is a peak-level master-level 100 feet worm. Compared to Yunyan, Su Ling reacted very quickly and immediately made a judgment. We can't run. It's faster than us. Zhou Hao spoke slowly, still looking indifferent. Of course, the 100 feet worm was definitely faster than Yunyan and Su Ling, but it was definitely not as fast as him. However, he kept that information to himself. Let's prepare for battle. Su Ling revealed a bitter expression as if she was facing a formidable enemy. Although she did not understand why this 100 feet worm would appear here, she knew that she had to fight with her full strength. Yunyan did not hesitate and immediately entered combat mode. On the cliff, Su Menjing nodded. The performance of Zhou Hao and the other two could only be considered average. However, with their strength, it was not wise for them to face a peak-level master-level 100 feet worm head-on. If there were no special methods, the three of them would end their training here. She would not let the three of them be in danger, but if she had to intervene, it also meant that they would be eliminated. Chapter 219, Insta-kill. Zhou Hao, what are you doing? Come back quickly. Seeing Zhou Hao take out an axe charm and actually lead the way to kill the 100 feet worm, Su Ling immediately shouted anxiously. Yunyan was also scared silly. Chi. What? However, Su Ling and Yunyan's worries vanished in the next moment. Immediately after, the two of them stopped in their tracks, their eyes revealing shock. Zhou Hao's figure directly flashed like a flowing light phantom, flashing 3 times around the 100 feet worm and drawing 3 crescent axe lights. Then, the huge 100 feet worm was directly dismembered by him, its limbs falling to the ground. Su Ling and Yunyan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The two of them were already so shocked that their entire bodies went numb. Their tongues were tied, and they were unable to say a word. The peak-level master 100 feet worm was actually killed by Zhou Hao in a single move. Although they had known since the last trial that Zhou Hao did not reveal his strength, they knew that he was definitely not weak. Otherwise, he would not have been able to finish first in the end-of-month competition. However, the combat strength Zhou Hao displayed just now had directly exceeded their expectations. After all, he had insta-killed a peak-level master 100 feet worm. On the cliff, Su Menjiang's body trembled in shock. Originally, she was waiting to see Zhou Hao and the other two get beaten up by the 100-feet worm before showing up to save them. She did not expect Zhou Hao to instantly kill the 100-feet worm. Yunyan and Su Ling did not notice it, but she did. Just now, Zhou Hao had not waved his axe 3 times. Instead, he had waved his axe 7 times in an instant, directly dismembering the 100-feet worm on the spot. However, Su Ling and Yunyan were wrong, and so was the beautiful Vice Dean. Zhou Hao did not swing his axe 7 times just now. Instead, he instantly swung his axe 54 times and sliced the 100-feet worm into pieces. After killing the 100-feet worm, Zhou Hao casually waved his hand. "Do you guys have to be so surprised? It's not like I did anything extraordinary." Seeing Yunyan and Su Ling's shocked expressions, Zhou Hao said casually. "I say, aren't you being too cocky?" Hearing Zhou Hao say this, Su Ling immediately said angrily. The scene in front of them was already so shocking that it was indescribable. In usual circumstances, the 3 of them would not be able to escape from the 100-feet worm. But now, Zhou Hao had actually killed this 100-feet worm in a single move. They had previously thought that they were overestimating Zhou Hao, but now, Su Ling and Yunyan realized that they had still underestimated him. Unlike Yunyan, Su Ling was shocked and happy, but she also felt an indescribable emotion in her heart. Zhou Hao, that bastard, had actually deceived her again. "Zhou Hao, why don't I know when you became so powerful, hey?" Su Ling stepped forward and grabbed Zhou Hao's ear as she asked in a strange tone. Zhou Hao wanted to retort that Su Ling never asked but chose to keep quiet. At this moment, it was more appropriate for him to apologize. "Hehe, I just wanted to give you a surprise," Zhou Hao replied decisively, no longer as high-spirited as before. After all, even a hero couldn't get past a beauty. "Surprise? I think it's more like shock." Zhou Hao's words successfully consoled Su Ling. Her tone could not help but lighten up and did not continue to pester him. After dealing with the materials on the 100-feet worm, Su Ling and Yunyan continued to leave in shock. "Zhou Hao, how did you cultivate to become so powerful?" Yunyan was shocked and could not calm down for a long time. The 3 of them had already walked far away, but she still asked curiously. It had to be known that Zhou Hao did not have special physiques like Ji Yufan and Su Ling, nor did he have any special bloodlines. For someone like him, it was not easy to reach this level. "That's right. I rarely see you put effort into your cultivation." Su Ling was also very puzzled. After all, every time she went to find Zhou Hao, this guy was always lazing around. "I didn't really cultivate." Zhou Hao told the truth. His strength originated from his incomparably deep and compact foundation as well as his current Heaven Realm cultivation technique. He had really not cultivated much himself. The reason why he was so powerful was simple. Basically, he was in a different realm as compared to the other cultivators. "Hi, he's getting cocky again." Yunyan felt a headache coming on. On the way, they had asked Zhou Hao many questions, but Zhou Hao always seemed to answer in a cocky way. Zhou Hao felt wronged. He had definitely told the truth. However, many things were too unbelievable, so Su Ling and Yunyan did not believe him at all. In this day and age, no one believed the truth. "We're in trouble again." After taking a few steps, Zhou Hao suddenly stopped. In fact, he had long sensed the Black Rock Bear King in the distance. "You guys should take this one this time. The previous 100-feet worm contained poison and was too dangerous. Therefore, he had insta-killed it previously. Now, although this Black Rock Bear King was dangerous, it did not have any poison. It was just nice for Yunyan and Su Ling to practice." "Take what?" Su Ling's beautiful eyes were filled with confusion. She did not sense anything around her. On the other side, Yunyan was about to ask, but before she could finish speaking, she immediately became vigilant. Not far away, a black rock bear king the size of a tank pressed towards them step by step with a firm aura. Chapter 220, Too Monstrous. This was also a peak-level master-level demon beast. However, it had actually learned how to conceal its aura. No wonder they did not sense the existence of this demon beast at all just now. Behind them, Su Menjing also followed along. She had captured many demon beasts nearby to test Zhou Hao's true level. Zhou Hao's secret axe technique just now had made her unable to completely calm down. This brat was simply too monstrous. On the way, she had already checked Zhou Hao's resume. From Zhou Hao's resume, she could come to a very accurate conclusion. That was, Zhou Hao was an ordinary person. From enrollment to graduation, to entering the elite training camp of the fortress base. Before the end of the month competition last time, Zhou Hao had not displayed anything outstanding. He was even ranked at the bottom. However, with Zhou Hao's stunning performance just now, Zhou Hao was indeed a monster that was in a completely different realm when it came to strength. The only explanation was that Zhou Hao was really too good at hiding his strength. In the beginning, Zhou Hao might have been an extremely heaven-defying genius. However, because he had yet to mature and could die at any moment, he had always hidden his edge. It was only recently that he felt that he had the strength to protect himself that he revealed his peerless talent. After thinking of this, Su Menjing even nodded in agreement. In the forest below, Su Ling and Yunyan were already fighting a huge battle with the Black Rock Bear King. Rather than calling it a huge battle, it would be more accurate to say that Su Ling and Yunyan were getting beat up. Their strengths were simply not on the same level. It was just that the two of them were agile and their strength was not too weak. By cooperating with each other, they could barely fight the Black Rock Bear King. 15 minutes later, the two of them gradually could not hold on any longer and were in danger. However, they did not ask Zhou Hao for help. Their combat strength needed to be slowly accumulated. The longer they persisted, the greater their improvement. Finally, the moment the sword in Su Ling's hand was swatted away by the Black Rock Bear King, a huge bear palm slapped towards her head. Chi! Su Ling's head did not explode. All she saw was Zhou Hao's axe flying out. After sensing Zhou Hao's strength at a close distance this time, Su Ling was even more shocked. Even if she and Yunyan joined forces, it would be very difficult for them to survive against the Black Rock Bear King. However, the Black Rock Bear King was unable to withstand a single strike from Zhou Hao. Above the mountain rocks, Su Menjing had long known how powerful Zhou Hao was. However, when she saw Zhou Hao's stunning performance, waves still surged in her heart. In the elite training camps of the 7 fortresses, there were countless geniuses. However, there was no one like Zhou Hao, who was already so monstrous after only being in the elite training camp for a month. After that, Zhou Hao directly led Su Ling and Yunyan to sweep through everything. No matter what insect race, demon race, or rare foreign race beings they encountered, he would sweep through them. Not long after, the three of them appeared at the rendezvous point they had previously agreed on. Actually, it did not matter whether they arrived at the rendezvous point or not. Zhou Hao was too good at hiding his strength. To them, this training was a life and death training. To Zhou Hao, it was at most an ordinary mission. What the two of them did not know was that Zhou Hao had treated this training as a picnic. If not for the two of them traveling with him and Su Menjing following from afar, he would not have needed to take action in all the battles. By directly releasing essence energy, he could completely turn these demon beasts and insect race into a bloody mist. The three of you are so slow. In the empty space of the rendezvous point, Yuan Cheng and Zhang Yi had long limped over. Seeing that Zhou Hao and the other two had only just arrived, the two of them were somewhat smug. Damn, you guys aren't injured at all. The smug smile on Yuan Cheng's face quickly disappeared. He and Zhang Yi had put their lives at risk to arrive here. But now, Zhou Hao and the other two were full of energy. Not to mention not being injured at all, even their clothes were not dirty. Don't tell me you guys haven't encountered a battle. Zhang Yi asked in a daze. As soon as he said this, even he felt that it was a stupid question. This place was filled with demon beasts and various foreign races. Even if Zhou Hao and the other two came in the Sky Fighter, a battle would still happen without an expert holding down the fort. However, judging from their appearances, it did not seem like. Zhang Yi's doubts were quickly answered. Yes, but they were all dealt with by Zhou Hao. Yun Yan told the truth, while Yuan Cheng and Zhang Yi were somewhat dumbfounded. Was Zhou Hao really that powerful? Originally, only Su Ling and the others had chosen the empty space beside the lake as their meeting point. However, because all the demon beasts and other foreign races in the area had been killed by Zhou Hao, many students of the 7th training camp subconsciously arrived here after escaping to the nearby area. After all, this place was relatively safe. Everyone had been in fear for many days in the training area. After discovering this time, they directly pounced onto the opportunity and gathered here. As more and more students arrived, they looked at Su Ling and the other two with extremely strange gazes.